Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Leichtweisz, and I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. I'm committed to helping you understand as much as possible about your child with autism so I can help you learn how to best help them. So one of the things that people always say about kids with autism is that they have sensory issues, but most parents don't really know what that is. So today I'm going to go over what the different types of sensory differences are that kids with autism have and what it means and what it may look like for your child. So let's get right into this. So today I have something a little bit different. Usually I just do these videos just with my camera on, but today I'm actually created some graphics to help you understand this. So when you talk about the sensory differences, all of us have different sensory senses. So we know that there's 5 main senses: visual, olfactory, which is smell, tactile, gustatory, vestibular, proprioception, and auditory. Well, now some of those probably sound familiar to you, right? Like the sense of sight, the sense of smell, the sense of touch, the sense of taste, the sense of hearing. But two of them probably are a little bit different: vestibular and proprioception. Vestibular has a lot to do with your balance. So where your body and proprioception is where your body is in space, body awareness. So that has a lot to do with motor planning. And those are things that kids with autism can also struggle a little bit with. Kids with autism can fall into two main categories. Either they can overseek some of these sensations, or they can underseek some of these sensations. So if they're seeking more sensation, then they're considered a sensory seeker. And if they're avoiding any of these sensations, then they're considered a sensory avoider. So here's the profile of a sensory seeker. Okay, so a sensory seeker, and I have one example of how each of these senses would manifest in a sensory seeker. So a sensory seeker, let's start off right with the top. So a sensory seeker would like to watch wheels spin. They're looking for visual input all the time. They like to watch doors open and close. They like to look at lights from the corner of their eye. Anything that provides them visual input, they tend to really like. Okay, so now we're gonna look at the auditory aspects of it. So children that are sensory seeking and they're seeking the auditory input, they like to bang things around. They like the sounds, they like loud noises. It makes them really happy. They tend to be really loud. Okay, so kids that are seeking the input of their mouth, the oral input, those are kids that are going to maybe be biting you. And those are the kids where they're not biting you because they want to hurt you. They're biting you because they like the way that it feels. They always have something in their mouth. They're always mouthing things. These are the kids that, walk around with the chewy tubes. Okay, kids that have tactile seeking. Those are kids that want to touch everything. They're just, do you ever see those kids, and I mean, your child might be one of them, they have to touch everything. They walk around the grocery store touching everything. They know, there's a part of like a window handle. They just have to touch it. Whatever it is, another person, they have to touch it. They love to be touched as well. They love getting tickled. They love getting massages. That's someone who's really seeking the tactile senses. So someone who's seeking the sense of smell, they might randomly walk up to you and smell you. This is a little bit less common, but there's kids that have done that. I've worked with kids that'll just go up to me and they'll start smelling me, and it tends to make people uncomfortable. But these are kids that are seeking that senses of smell. So kids that are seeking the vestibular sensation, they are always running around. They're really gross motor. They're really skilled. They tend to be strong. They like to climb on things. They're into trampoline. They also like to crash into things. So these are the kids that they're in the playground where all the other kids are playing games and they're playing nicely. This kid is just running back and forth and crashing into other kids and laughing. And so, that happens a lot in preschools, and teachers wonder why they're doing it. And sometimes think that they have poor coordination, but it actually could be that they're crashing into kids because they like the way it feels. To them, it feels good. They're unaware of the fact to other people it doesn't feel good. So they don't want to hurt other kids, but they don't realize they are hurting other kids. So the other type is the proprioception. These are kids, they love to swing. They can just do it for hours. They love the sensation of being upside down. They like being flipped around. They like being thrown around. So these are kids that it's a really good idea to roughhouse with. So these are all the kids that are sensory seeking. So one of the ways to think about it is think about a cup. So, every day our cup has to be full for us to feel fulfilled, to get enough of sensation. So for you, for me, I love exercise. So I have to do my exercise every day for me to go to bed feeling full. Here's the problem. Our kids have a cup and they want the cup to be full, but the cup has a hole in it. And so as fast as you're filling it, they're it's just coming out, right? The water is coming out of the cup. So you can provide them all the input in the world and they're still seeking it. It seems like they can never have enough. That's because kids neurologically have a dull reaction to these sensations. So they are not, every time we get an input, our cup gets fuller, but their cup isn't filling up from this input because they're not able to experience it as much. That's why they're crashing into things and touching things that we don't need to touch. It's why they're looking at things that we may not even seem to notice. It's because they're constantly requiring that input. So let's look at who a sensory avoider is. So sensory avoider is basically the complete and opposite. So this is a person whose cup is full all the time with the lid on it. So whereas the other kids are, they're not feeling the sensations. These kids are super sensitive to the sensations. So kids that are avoiding the eyes, like they don't want you to look in their eyes. They don't like light at all. They don't like loud noises. They get very overwhelmed in crowds. They don't like to be touched. They may still touch you, but they don't like to be touched. These are the kids who they're going to be avoiding tags on their clothing. There might be certain types of clothes that they don't like. These are the kids that might take their clothes off, right? I've worked with kids, even in public places, they'll just take their clothes off. It is nothing to do with wanting to be naked. It has more to do with the fact that they don't like the sensation. They don't like wearing socks and shoes. These are the kids who eat a very limited variety of foods. So a lot of children with autism, they avoid foods of certain textures. A lot of kids with autism don't like getting their hair cut. They don't like getting their teeth brushed. These are all sensory avoiders. Some of them are sometimes sensory avoiding, again, comes in the sense of smell. It's not as common, but sometimes smells can really throw a child off. The most common way this manifests is actually in foods. So if foods don't smell appealing to a child, they're much more sensitive to not wanting to try it. So when it comes to the playground, these are the kids that will cry if you make them go on the slide or swings. These are the kids that just want to walk around and they don't want to necessarily play or do anything. They tend to really not like occupational therapy because they don't want to bounce the ball. They don't want to go upside down. They don't want to be doing any of these activities where they're being forced into accepting sensations or taught how to tolerate sensations. So someone who's a sensory seeker might really, really love therapy because they're getting everything that their body is craving. And then someone who's a sensory avoider might not like occupational therapy because they're really being asked to do things that their body wants to avoid. So here's where it gets a little bit complicated. Most children fit into both profiles. And even more so, some kids might have some sensory seeking things and then some sensory avoiding things within the same sense. For example, the sense of hearing. I have a friend and she said, well, my kid really loves loud noises sometimes, but sometimes he doesn't like loud noises. Sometimes he cries. And we talked about it. We determined that he likes loud sounds and he seeks them. However, sounds of specific pitches he tends to avoid. So there's certain things he doesn't want to hear, and it makes him really upset. He might cry. And the parent didn't even realize it was the pitch. So this is just kind of proof that some things to us may not even seem significant, but to kids that have sensory issues or sensory differences, it can be very significant. The most common way this manifests is touch. Kids might really, really like deep touch or deep pressure. A lot of children love pillow squeezes. They love to be really touched in a strong way. But if you lightly touch them, like they really don't like it. So, the tag on the back of their shirt that's lightly grazing their neck, that might cause them some physical pain. It might really, really bother them. And yet these are the kids that are wanting these deep bear hugs. So it can be a little bit hard. But when we can recognize what the differences are, then we can help. So there's no hard or fast rule. Again, kids can be one of these things one day, and they can be another way another day. But this is a neurological thing. This is not a choice. Like, kids aren't just choosing, okay, I'm going to seek out sensory sensations today of touch, and I'm going to avoid the visual input, and then tomorrow I'm going to switch it up and we're going to go backwards. That's not how it works. These are neurological differences in the child's brain. They have sensory processing disorder. Now, it is believed that all kids with autism have all people with autism have some form of sensory processing disorder. Sensory processing, like autism, is a continuum. All of us fall somewhere in the continuum, and every day every one of us has some sort of integration issues at some point, depending upon where we are. But kids with autism have a really, really hard time integrating sensory information. So that means taking input and then being able to use it to modify behavior. Somewhere along the line, there is a disconnect for kids with autism. So I really hope this video helps make it a little clearer what the different sensory sensations are, what it means when we say kids have sensory issues or sensory differences. I like to use the word differences. I think it's just a more appealing word. I think that, no one wants to be told that they have an issue. But if someone is told that you have a difference, I think it's a little kinder, a lot more careful with how I'm talking, and really like using a lot more positive, inclusive language. So I use words like sensory differences or differently abled instead of disabled. And that's something that I really believe that if we start doing that as a society, we'll start to help understand that these things that we're talking about, these sensory differences we're talking about, that they're not necessarily problems that children have to to solve and to change, but that as a society, we need to adapt to and accept everyone for where they are. So my name is Jessica Leichtweisz. I really hope this video was helpful. If you have a question, I would love to answer it. Head over to my website, hopeeducationservices.com. Drop your name and your email in there, and I will be happy to respond to your email. All right, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.